Okay, so in the previous video, I walked through the dashboard that's embedded in the demo site. In this video, I want to walk through how that dashboard was built and have a look at the variety of data that's available in the data model that we provide. Of course, the data is collected using the tracker, the RelevantEdge tracker on the demo website, and processed to the database, as I explained, and then made available in our data model in Power BI here. So first of all, I'm in Power BI desktop, and I'm looking at the dashboard, let's say the report, Power BI report. The onboard navigation that you see up here is the same, obviously, as in the demo site embedded dashboard. What's different now is that we're able to see the dimensions, fields, measures, and so forth that are available in Power BI here. So I think what I want to do is, first of all, explain one thing, is that in the data model that we provide, we have out-of-the-box functionality that works automatically when the tracker and the solution is deployed. And then we have optional functionality in the anticipation that a solution may be working with commerce or have a login on a portal, for example, or there's a requirement for tracking, for the cookie and the consent. So here in the data model, we see cart dimensions here, we see order dimensions here, and we see the consent event here, and we see authentication here. These are optional. And basically, you can think of it as pre-built functionality, pre-built data modeling that the tracker can hook into with a little bit of setup, a little bit of configuration work, so that we can bring into the dashboard's possibilities, authentication, commerce insights, and so forth. So with that little explanation out of the way, I want to focus on the out-of-the-box functionality, which is the majority of what's available in the data model that you can see here as I sort of scroll down and up again. So just to walk through from top to bottom, sessions, when users visit the site, the tracker will create a user ID, aka device ID, and each session gets a unique session ID. And that's, of course, a very fundamental part of the data model and the tracking. So here in the dimension on the right-hand side, we can see that there are a number of measures that are provided out of the box, one of them being number of sessions. And then here, all of the dimensions have additional measures folders. And here you can see that we, again, prepare lots of out-of-the-box measures, and we actually do this programmatically, and where we have number of sessions for previous period. So in this tile here, this visualization, we have number of sessions versus number of sessions previous period based on the selected date range, about a week of date range selected. So it's basically, the more or less the current week compared to the previous week, and we can see an uplift. So similar concept with the other KPI cards that you see here. We have new visitors versus, current versus previous. We have returning, and you can see over here in the data model, we've got returning here, we've got new, we've got total, and so forth, sessions, etc. So actually, yes. So what we see with actually, I want to take that one off. The trend line there, not necessary. So what we see is here with page views, another very commonly used dimension. For page views, we have, again, pre-built insights, measures, measures, etc. And you can see with regard to pages, with this visualization, we have number of page view events versus, current period versus previous period, or default versus previous, as you see here. And we also provide not only previous period for all these measures, but relative change. So if you want to look at the percentage change in the current period versus the previous, you would just drag these measures out and be able to work with them. So a real time saver when it comes to doing the data modeling for the data that's tracked in the tracker. And total clicks, there's a lot more to say about clicks, but for now and I will say more about it, but for now, we have what we call interaction events, a concept we have here with the tracker and with the solution. So we see here navigational clicks, and we do differentiate between internal, external, things like anchor clicks, things like in-component clicks, navigational clicks where you're just simply, clicking throughout the site. Those are here. We have number of total user interaction events. That would be all the different types of clicks in one, for example. Here we have HubSpot contacts in the data model. On the demo site, we have a integration with CRM. We're using HubSpot. It's a nice free CRM that we can integrate with to show the concept of integrated analytics. And here, there's more to say about the HubSpot integration, which I'll go into separately. Here we have the number of HubSpot contact IDs, and with regard to HubSpot, it does have its own date range. It's down here. I'm not going to get into it right now. Works on a different date range from session. So if I wanted to compare current to previous, I could do that, but it requires a little bit of special data, dragging and dropping of data into the page, etc. Number of completed quote forms. We have out-of-the-box tracking for forms. So it comes under user interaction events. And here you can see we have number of completed forms. And again, we have the previous period down here. We've got a bunch of other measures that you can see here. Essentially, what we're doing for any form that you place on the website with the form tags, we will track abandonments, completes, and we will track all the input fields. What was the last field completed, if the form has been abandoned, if the form has been submitted. So we're doing lots of tracking of forms, out of the box, and it's quite solid compared to other analytics packages out there, we feel. So moving along with the chart that we see here, the number of sessions, page views, scrolls, and clicks. What we see, if I just dive into this one and over here, we have page view sessions. We looked at that before. We have component impressions, navigational clicks, scrolls. So component impressions, what we're doing is we provide the ability to basically, we're looking at all the components by default name in the CMS. When you're using a modern CMS and typically you're creating components and adding them to pages. Those components have default names. They end up in the HTML. We take those names and we make those names available. Plus, we have an option for with CMSs that we work more closely with, you could say, where we enable the ability to have custom names for components so that you can track those component impressions by custom names. It's like tagging, essentially. And you can also have an option to count the impressions for any component that you want. So super useful for measuring things like engagement, validating UX questions, understanding the performance of components by essentially tag names. So short one here is just number of component impressions that you can see. And then we have scrolls here as well. And we track 3 different types of scrolls. So if you scroll below the fold, that's a scroll count. If you scroll to the middle of the page, that's another count. And if you scroll to the bottom of the page, that's another count. So we have lots of options for getting insights regarding scrolls. The number of scrolls is the total number that you can see here. So you get a sense from this chart of the amount of engagement and activity on the website, not only the sort of passive page views, etc., but also things like clicks and scrolls. Here we see number of sessions and pages, pretty standard analytics stuff. Page names in the y-axis, and then we have number of sessions, number of page views. Here we have number of internal clicks by pages where clicks occurred. And here, this is an analytics question I think is quite interesting. One thing is like what pages do users view, but which pages are they clicking in the most? And that's what we're able to see here. And I'm using some filtering here where we differentiate between clicks that can be internal and external. And we also look at other things like href, etc. So that's this is just a quick one with regard to clicks by pages, internal clicks. And here we have amount of time on page by the active time on the page and the visibility. So as the user is scrolling and using the mouse, in fact, there's a little bit of, pretty sure there's a little bit of onboard help for this. So you can see here on the left we have some description for the different measures that's included in the data model, and here you can see a definition of the sum of the interactive time, and then similar for the sum of the visible time, a little bit less description there, but essentially looking at pages where users are it's visible, through the viewport, and also there's interactivity with scrolling and clicking and moving the mouse. So that's also the interactive time. So interactive and visible by page. Here, very important, in this table down here, every session, so every user gets a user ID, aka device ID, and every session gets a unique session ID. We have lots of different ways to look at, if I just go over to the sessions over here. So lots of different options for, we have device ID, we have session ID, and you can see some of the other measures or fields that are provided here. When we want to look at sessions by date, which I could have done above, but I didn't do, then we have here session by start date time. You can see here that we have lots of options. Again, this is, day, month, week, day of the week, etc. This is, all this is ready to run out of the box, data modeling included with the Power BI solution that we provide. And here I'm just using the timestamp, just keeping it simple for this table. Number of sessions, number of page views, number of scrolls, location in a couple different ways. So a quick look at location, I think is up here. Session locations. So city, as you can see here, country, city, postcode, IP address is a little lower down, zip code, etc. We use a third-party service for this information. If you wanted to use a different third-party service, it could be pretty easy to configure. So that's a little bit about the granularity of the data, something that's just fundamentally important, that you get access to essentially the raw data down to the user ID and the session ID, and you're able to filter accordingly. And that is just a really important concept that is included in the tracker and with the analytics solution that we provide here together with Power BI. Devices, where we have devices in a number of different ways. Just going to see where that is. User agent, device type, as we see here. So this is simply device by, I think, sessions, number of sessions. Device type by session. We're also using a third-party service for this, and with possibilities for different third-party services if that was required. But this one does the job. Does not have operating system, but that's something that can be added. Device operating system. Then we have here location, and which is something I covered before. So that's a brisk walkthrough of this dashboard. The first page in the report named Overview. And from here, I will make a separate video about each of these pages, essentially walking through them the way I just walked through the first page here, so that you can understand how the CRM integration works. You can understand more about the different types of clicks. We can look at components, component impressions by name, by component clicks, or clicks by component name. Really, really interesting. UTM campaigning, full query string available in the data that's collected by the tracker. Again, very important. Looking more user insights, events, including some custom events. That's something I'll just quickly mention here. You can see that in the data model there are a number of these dimensions that start with tags. These are, again, sort of pre-built dimensions where you can hook in, use a tag manager, GA tag manager, or GTM, whatever, or another tag manager, to basically inject, in combination with the RelevantEdge tracker, to inject different events and etc. by into the tracker and ending up into the data, the collection database, and available for reporting. And then so that was events, and then here with journey, this is the sort of oh, sorry, I need to go down here. Just one more, a little bit of a preview, and this is a little bit of a fancy visualization where essentially we're tracking from and to pages, and even down to different session IDs, so that you can get to understand the pages that were viewed in the different sessions. This is a bit of what we think of as journey analytics. So users coming in from the internet, going to home, vehicles, car insurance, request a quote. You can do other kind of filtering. We have something called journey stages, using tags by component, something that we'll get into when we talk about components, and this from and to concept with pages is something that's also out of the box, as well as the ability to make Sankey charts showing the sequences of pages, and by page view and by event, so that you can again understand the journey not only within a single session but across sessions. So true journey analytics. So we'll be getting into all of this in the separate videos that are coming on the way. Thanks for this one. Talk to you later.